Let me tell you something about men. A man doesn't fall in love the way movies show it. We don't trip, fall, and land head first into feelings overnight. A man walks into love slowly, carefully, and usually without announcing it. When a man starts falling in love, he doesn't say it first. He shows it. See, men are wired to protect themselves. Love is risky. Love can make a man feel vulnerable, and vulnerability is not something we are taught to be comfortable with. So when a man starts falling in love slowly, the signs are subtle, but they are always there. Sign number one, he starts becoming consistent. Not perfect, consistent. He shows up when he says he will. He calls when he says he'll call. He may not talk much, but you'll notice this, he's there. Men don't invest time where they feel nothing. Sign number two, he starts listening differently. At first, men hear you. Later, when feelings start growing, they remember you. He remembers what you said last week, what upset you, what made you laugh. That's not memory. That's emotional attachment forming. Let me explain something about men that most people don't tell you. When a man starts falling in love, it doesn't hit him all at once. It doesn't come with fireworks, dramatic speeches, or sudden emotional confessions. A man falls in love slowly, quietly, almost secretly, even from himself. And the first place it shows up is not in what he says, but in how consistent he becomes. At the beginning, a man can be charming, exciting, and intense. But intensity is not love. Consistency is. When a man starts falling in love, he starts showing up the same way over and over again. Not because you demanded it, not because you reminded him, but because something inside him says, I need to be present here. He starts calling when he says he will. He checks in without being asked. He makes time even on days when he's tired, busy, or stressed. Men don't give time away for free. Time is how a man shows value, and when he begins to give it regularly, it means you are becoming important to him. This consistency isn't loud, it's steady. He may not text all day, but he doesn't disappear. He may not be overly emotional, but he doesn't leave you guessing. You start to feel a sense of reliability, and that's not accidental. That's a man subconsciously building emotional roots. He doesn't even realize he's doing it at first. All he knows is that being absent from you doesn't feel right anymore. As his consistency grows, something else changes. He starts listening in a different way. Early on, men hear conversations. Later, when feelings start forming, they begin to absorb them. He remembers things you said casually, things you didn't think mattered. He recalls your opinions, your worries, your little habits. That's not because he suddenly became more attentive. It's because emotional attachment sharpens focus. When a man starts falling in love, your words begin to carry weight. They stay with him after the conversation ends. You'll notice he brings things up later, sometimes at unexpected moments. Something you mentioned weeks ago suddenly matters to him. That's how you know it's getting deeper. Men don't store emotional details unless their heart is involved. Logic doesn't do that. Feelings do. Another quiet change happens next. He starts protecting your peace. A man who is slowly falling in love becomes more careful with you. His tone softens. He pauses before speaking. He avoids unnecessary arguments, not because he's weak, but because hurting you now feels like hurting himself. Your emotions start to matter to him in a personal way. He doesn't enjoy chaos around you anymore. He wants calm, balance, and understanding. This is a big shift for men because men are often raised to win arguments, not preserve emotions. But love changes priorities. When a man starts thinking, how will this make her feel? Before he acts, that's not coincidence. That's emotional responsibility forming. Then there's the future talk, subtle, unplanned, almost accidental. He doesn't sit you down and declare forever. Instead, he slips you into his tomorrow. Small statements, casual plans, shared ideas. He begins to imagine experiences with you in them. This matters because men don't visualize the future emotionally unless they're attached. Planning is a form of commitment for a man, even when he doesn't label it as such. And perhaps the strongest sign of all is this: He starts changing without being asked. Not because you pressured him, not because you complained, but because he wants to be better in your presence. Men do not change for ultimatums. They change for meaning. When love starts growing, a man naturally adjusts. His habits shift. His priorities rearrange. He becomes more intentional, more aware, more disciplined, not perfectly, but genuinely. That's when you know it's real, because forced change never lasts, but willing change comes from the heart. When a man is falling in love slowly, he may not say much, but his behavior begins to tell the whole story. Quietly, consistently, and honestly. Sign number 2, he starts listening differently. At first, men hear you. Later, when feelings start growing, they remember you. He remembers what you said last week, what upset you, what made you laugh. That's not memory. That's emotional attachment for me. Let me explain something most people don't understand about men and love. A man does not wake up one morning and suddenly decide he's in love. That's not how it happens. Love for a man is not a switch. It's a process. It grows quietly, slowly, and most of the time, even he doesn't realize it's happening until he's already deep in it. When a man starts falling in love slowly, the change isn't loud. It doesn't come with speeches or big emotional confessions. It shows up in the way he starts behaving without even trying to. At the beginning, a man is usually guarded. He's watching, measuring, protecting himself. He's asking questions in his mind like, is this safe? Can I trust her? Is this worth the risk? Because for a man, love is a risk. It means opening a door where pain could walk in. So when he starts falling in love slowly, the first thing you'll notice is not romance, it's consistency. He starts showing up in small, steady ways. He checks in. He follows through. He stops being random. A man does not consistently give his time to something he does not value. Time is currency to a man, and once he starts spending it regularly, it means something is shifting inside him. As his feelings grow, the way he listens begins to change. Early on, he may hear you, but he doesn't fully absorb you. When love starts creeping in, he listens with intention. He remembers things you didn't think mattered. He remembers your moods, your worries, the little details about your day. This isn't because he's suddenly more attentive. It's because your presence has started to matter emotionally. You are no longer background noise. You are becoming important. Another quiet sign appears when he starts protecting your emotional space. A man who is slowly falling in love becomes more careful with his words and actions. He thinks before he reacts. He doesn't enjoy hurting you, even accidentally. He may not always get it right, but you'll notice he starts trying. That effort matters. Men don't make emotional adjustments for people they don't care about. When your feelings begin to influence his behavior, that's love forming. You'll also notice a shift in how he talks about his life. He may not say the word forever, but he'll start placing you into future moments without realizing it. He'll talk about plans, experiences, and time ahead with you naturally included. It's subtle, but it's powerful. A man who doesn't see you as part of his future won't mention you in it at all. When he starts doing that, it means his heart has already started making room. One of the strongest signs is change without pressure. Men resist being told what to do, especially when it comes to who they should be. But when love starts growing, a man changes because he wants to, not because he's forced to. He may adjust his habits, soften his tone, or rethink his priorities. He doesn't announce it. He just does it. That's when you know his feelings are becoming real. Here's the truth. Many people miss a man falling in love slowly, may never say much at first. He might even seem emotionally quiet, but inside he is building attachment, trust, and purpose. Love for a man is not about intensity in the beginning. It's about commitment growing in silence. If you're watching his actions instead of waiting for his words, you'll see it clearly. Sign number 3, he starts protecting your peace. A man who's slowly falling in love stops wanting drama. He avoids hurting you, avoids unnecessary arguments, and starts thinking before he speaks. Not because he's scared, but because your feelings now matter to him. When a man starts falling in love slowly, it doesn't arrive like a storm. It comes like a change in the air that only someone paying attention can feel. Men don't rush into love because love asks them to risk something they've spent their whole lives protecting control. So when a man begins to fall, he does it quietly, cautiously, almost like he's testing the ground with every step. You won't always hear it in his words, but you will see it in the way his behavior starts to shift. At first, he might still act guarded. He may joke instead of opening up or stay calm when emotions start to rise. But slowly, something changes. He begins to listen with intent, not just nodding while thinking about something else, but actually absorbing what you're saying. He remembers small details you didn't think mattered. The story you told weeks ago, the thing that upset you, the dream you mentioned casually. That's not accidental. That's a man whose feelings are growing deeper than he expected, and now his mind is storing information connected to you because you matter to him. As his feelings develop, you'll notice he starts being more careful with his words. Men who don't care speak freely without thinking, but a man falling in love starts pausing before he responds. He weighs how his words might land on you. He may not explain why he went quiet or changed the subject, but it's because he's learning that his words have the power to affect you, and that realization changes him. Another sign appears in how he handles conflict. Before, he might have walked away or shut down. Now, even if he struggles, he tries to stay present. He doesn't want unresolved tension between you. Not because he suddenly loves arguments, but because distance now feels uncomfortable. When a man starts falling in love, emotional distance feels heavier than before. His time begins to shift too. Men are intentional with their time. If he's choosing to spend more of it with you, not just during convenient moments, but during real life moments, that's meaningful. He fits you into his routine. He adjusts schedules without making a big deal about it. He doesn't announce these changes because to him it feels natural. But those adjustments are signs of emotional priority forming. Slow love also shows itself in protection, not control. He wants to know you're okay. He checks in, not out of obligation, but because you're well. Being sits somewhere in his mind, even when you're not around. He doesn't always express concern dramatically, but it's there in the small questions, the quiet support, the way he steps in when you're overwhelmed. You may also notice he begins to reveal parts of himself he usually keeps hidden. Not everything at once, but in pieces. A story from his past, a regret, a fear he doesn't talk about often. Men don't share vulnerability unless they feel emotionally safe. When he starts letting you see behind the walls, it's because his heart is slowly trusting you with access. One of the strongest signs appears when he starts changing small habits without being asked. Maybe he communicates more. Maybe he softens his tone. Maybe he becomes more patient. These aren't changes driven by pressure or fear of losing you. They come from internal motivation. Love, real love, makes a man want to become better without feeling forced. As his feelings deepen, his future language shifts. He doesn't make promises he can't keep, but he starts imagining you there. His sentences include you naturally, not as a fantasy, but as a possibility he's beginning to believe in. This is a man quietly letting you into his long-term thinking. The most important thing to understand is this: a man falling in love slowly may not announce it when it starts, and he may not even fully realize it himself at first, but his actions will begin aligning in ways that are hard to fake. Consistency replaces confusion. Consideration replaces indifference. Presence replaces distance. When a man starts falling in love slowly, the signs don't shout, they whisper. And if you're patient and observant, you'll hear them long before he ever says the words. Sign number 4, he begins to include you in his future talk. Not marriage speeches, not big promises, just small sentences like, next time we, or one day we should. That's a man quietly making space for you in his life. A man doesn't wake up one morning and suddenly decide he's in love. That's not how it works for most men. Love for a man grows quietly, almost unnoticed at first like a slow fire that starts with a single spark. He may not even recognize what's happening inside him, but his behavior begins to shift in small, meaningful ways. One of the clearest signs that a man is slowly falling in love is when he starts to change without being asked, without pressure, and without ultimatums. Men don't respond well to force. You can't argue a man into becoming better, and you can't demand a man into loving deeper. When a man changes on his own, it means something inside him has already moved. It means he cares enough to adjust who he is, not because someone told him to, but because he wants to be better for the person he's growing attached to. That kind of change doesn't come from fear of losing someone. It comes from the desire to keep them. You'll notice it in the little things first. Maybe he used to disappear for days, and now he checks in without being reminded. Maybe he used to brush things off, and now he pauses before he speaks. Maybe he used to live entirely in his own world, and now he considers how his actions affect you. He may not announce these changes, and he may not even be aware of them himself, but they are happening because his emotions are getting involved. A man who is slowly falling in love starts becoming more thoughtful. He begins to think ahead instead of just reacting in the moment. He might start managing his time better, not because he suddenly became organized, but because he doesn't want to disappoint you. He starts understanding that his choices don't just affect him anymore. That awareness is a big step for a man because it means he's no longer living only for himself. What makes this sign so important is that it's voluntary. Nobody had to threaten him. Nobody had to beg him. Nobody had to give him a list of demands. The changes come naturally and they stick because they're rooted in genuine emotion. Men can pretend for a short time, but they can't maintain change unless it's real. When a man is falling in love slowly, the effort doesn't feel like effort to him. It feels like the right thing to do. You might notice that he starts cleaning up parts of his life, not just physically, but emotionally. He may distance himself from things that don't align with the future he's starting to imagine. He may cut back on habits that once mattered more than anything, not because someone shamed him, but because he wants to show up better. Love has a way of raising a man's standards for himself. This kind of change is quiet, and that's why many people miss it. They look for big gestures, dramatic confessions, or bold declarations. But men often express love through responsibility and self-correction. When a man begins to adjust his behavior to protect a connection, that's emotional investment at work. That's him saying, without words, this matters to me. It's also important to understand that these changes don't mean perfection. A man falling in love slowly will still make mistakes. He will still stumble. But the difference is in how he responds afterward. He takes accountability. He tries again. He doesn't dismiss your feelings like they don't matter. That effort, repeated over time, is one of the strongest indicators that his heart is involved. When a man starts changing on his own, it's because love has started reshaping his priorities. His world begins to shift, and you become part of the reason he wants to grow. That kind of love doesn't rush, doesn't shout, and doesn't demand attention. It builds quietly, steadily, and deeply, and when it's real, you can feel it in everything he does. And sign number 5, this one is powerful. He starts changing without being asked. Men don't change for pressure. They change for purpose. When a man adjusts his habits, his tone, or his priorities without you begging him, that's love growing silently. A man changing without being asked is one of the clearest signs that love is quietly taking root inside him. Men don't adjust their habits easily. They don't wake up one day and decide to be different because someone demanded it or because they were pressured into it. When change happens naturally, it's coming from an internal shift, not an external push. That shift begins when a man starts to care about how his actions affect someone else. Love doesn't announce itself with grand speeches at first. It shows up as awareness, and awareness leads to change. At the beginning, a man lives according to what works for him. His routines, his priorities, his comfort zones are built around his own needs. When he starts falling in love, something subtle happens. He begins to notice how his behavior lands on you. He notices when his silence makes you uneasy. He notices when his lateness disappoints you. He notices when his tone hurts you. And here's the key part. He doesn't just notice it. He does something about it without being told. You didn't ask him to text more, but suddenly he does. You didn't demand better communication, but he starts explaining instead of disappearing. You didn't push him to be more patient, yet his reactions soften. These changes aren't dramatic, but they are intentional. They come from a place of wanting to keep you comfortable, safe, and respected in his presence. That desire doesn't come from fear of losing you. It comes from valuing you. When a man starts changing on his own, it means you've entered his internal decision-making process. He's no longer asking, what do I want right now? He's starting to ask, how will this affect her? That question is powerful. It's the difference between liking someone and loving someone. Liking is about enjoyment. Love is about responsibility. A man in this phase won't talk about his growth. He won't announce that he's trying to be better. He may not even fully understand why he's changing. He just knows that something feels off when he disappoints you, and something feels right when he shows up better. Love begins to act like a compass, quietly guiding his behavior. This kind of change is also different from temporary effort. Anyone can act right for a short time. Anyone can perform when they're trying to impress. But when a man is slowly falling in love, the changes stick. They become part of who he is around you. He doesn't revert back the moment things get comfortable. In fact, comfort is what motivates him to maintain the change because he doesn't want to disturb the peace he feels with you. Another important detail is that these changes don't come with resentment. He doesn't bring it up later and say he did this or that for you. He doesn't keep score. That's because he doesn't see it as a sacrifice. He sees it as alignment. Being better around you feels natural, not forced. This is why love that grows slowly is often stronger. It's not rushed, not emotional chaos, not constant highs and lows. It's steady growth. It's a man becoming more thoughtful, more intentional, more present, not because he was told to, but because he wants to be the kind of man you deserve. When you see a man changing without being asked, pay attention. That's not coincidence. That's not luck. That's love forming quietly, choosing you every day in small, consistent ways, long before the words ever come out of his mouth. Let me say this clearly, a man who is falling in love slowly may not say much, but his actions will start speaking louder every day. And if you're paying attention, you won't need words to know.